Hello there. This is Life Matters, and I am your host, Dr. Mildred Fay Jefferson. And we have two guests today who are part of our helping services, and it brings me very, very great pleasure to have them with us today. But before I introduce them, for those of our viewers who may not be familiar with our program, which is sponsored by the Margaret O'Hara, West Roxbury, Roslindale chapter of Massachusetts Citizens for Life, I will read for you the mission statement of Massachusetts Citizens for Life. You will see it on your screen, but I still read it just to remind myself that we are not just an ordinary program and we don't have just an ordinary mission. In recognition of the fact that each human life is a continuum from conception to natural death, the mission of Massachusetts Citizens for Life Incorporated is to promote respect for human life and to defend the right to life of all human beings, born and preborn. We will influence public policy at the local, state, and national levels through comprehensive educational, legislative, political, and charitable activities. And now, introducing our guests from my left to farther left, but I don't think this will speak for political positions. Ours is an educational program, and we're not endorsed or sponsored by any political party. On my left immediately is Mrs. Marilyn Birnie, the director, founder and director of Friends of the Unborn of Quincy, Massachusetts. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jefferson. It's a pleasure to be here.
And on her left is Mr. Sean Brown, who is the chairman of the board of directors. And I'm especially happy to have him because his presence really does underline our whole mission. Mothers, fathers working together, the family working together. Mother, father, children. And excuse me for reaching over you, but welcome. It's so nice to have you both.
Thank you, Dr. Jefferson, and it's my pleasure to be here, too.
Well, now, Mrs. Birnie, do you mind if I call you Marilyn?
Please call me Marilyn.
Let us get right to the nitty-gritty. Tell our viewers who Friends of the Unborn are and how did you happen to start it?
Well, Friends of the Unborn is a crisis pregnancy center, and also we have homes for homeless pregnant young women. And it started in 1984 in my home, and I know the Lord called me to take in one young woman who was homeless and pregnant, and she was going to have an abortion. And she moved into my home on a Friday, and the abortion appointment was on a Monday, so she didn't have to have it. And that child right now is probably about 21 years old. Oh. So that's how we began in my home.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So just with a plain house, a plain dwelling?
Yes, just myself and my two daughters. And I really feel like I was led to this, and I did pray about it, and we finally, I called the Archdiocese of Boston and asked them if they needed a place, pregnancy help. So they did need a place for young women, and so the first woman came into my home in September of 1984. It's a long time ago.
It is a long time. Now, how did it evolve from one house, and how did you get from Hull to Quincy?
Well, we were in Hull I started my own home, and I opened up two more in Hull. And I had, I think, up to 23 beds. And, of course, with the help of people, wonderful pro-life people who wanted to, had the love of life and cared about the unborn, and they helped me financially. But I did get a call one day from a priest in St. John's in Quincy, and he said, would you like to have a home also in Quincy? He said, right next to the rectory. And he said you could have a home for unwed mothers next to the home for unwed fathers. So
I like that.
So we were very gracious, grateful, Therese, to move into this home, and we still have that one today.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Now, Sean, may I call you Sean?
Oh, please do.
We can't get anywhere without the money. Now, how did you happen to develop an interest and not just, sort of send a check from a distance? How did you get involved?
Well, quite a while ago also, not quite as far back as Marilyn, but in 1989, I had lived a religious retreat called a Cursillo, and I came out of that retreat feeling a strong desire to get involved in something that my efforts could help to make a difference in this world and life. And shortly after that, I read an article in a local newspaper outlining the work of Friends of the Unborn, which was 6 years old at that time. I thought that was a very interesting ministry, and I called up Marilyn. My wife and I actually both called.
Yes.
And we set up an appointment to come and visit at the home and discuss where we might be able to lend our assistance, mostly in a physical way at that time. We did some remodeling, painting, and all sorts of things, and a little financial contributions too. And as time went on, we just got more and more involved and more committed, and eventually I was very honored when Marilyn asked me to join the board.
Wonderful.
And then at some point a few years back, they asked me to be the chairman of the board, which is
He's a wonderful
the
chairman.
greatest honor in my life.
Well, that is wonderful because you worked, it wasn't just an honorary title.
No.
You really did deserve it, and I'm so happy that you accepted. Now, I want you to start with some young woman who is frightened and alone out there, or maybe an older woman who is pregnant, frightened, and not knowing where to turn. How do they get in touch with Friends of the Unborn?
There are many different ways now that women find us, often through social service agencies, sometimes social services in hospitals, and sometimes through the Department of Transitional Assistance, and also word of mouth and through churches and pro-life people.
Now, do you have very much contact, or many contacts in the school? Do school nurses have your number and your website?
Yes, there are several high school counselors who have our number, but more they come from the medical profession. They're really the ones that are sending the women to us. And we have women from all different ages, from 18 up, also from other countries sometimes.
That is very interesting.
Yes, so we're very happy to take them in because they're very sad circumstances some of them come from, but they don't want to have abortions.
Yes.
And if they didn't have a home to come to, they would have to go to the clinics for
Well,
an
now,
abortion.
what is a young woman going to expect, a girl, a woman, if she calls you? What happens?
Well, first we asked her to come in for an interview, and we have a great deal of compassion and understanding and love we offer these women. And they see when they walk in the door, they immediately feel comfortable. Often they have said that. So we talk with them about what their situation is. We tell them what we would expect of them if they live with us, which is a very simple way of life for them. We don't ask them to do too much, but we do ask them to take care of the home and their area, and to take care of their bodies and go to the doctor and behave. And so usually the women are very happy to do that, and they stay with us throughout the pregnancy and after.
How long may they stay after?
They can stay up until the child is a year old and sometimes beyond.
That is wonderful because obviously there is some necessary transition. Well, I'm especially happy that you could come because I'm trying to acquaint not only our viewers who are not connected with the pro-life movement, but people within the pro-life movement need to know what we have available in our support services. So this is a continuing series, which I call Because We Love Them Both, We Love Them All.
Yes.
And we want the whole family involved. And I always like to tell people it does not matter what your position is on abortion. If you see a girl, a woman who is suffering and in need of counseling and not being pushed in a direction that will cause her great sorrow and later suffering, send her to us.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the very least you can do. That doesn't do anything to undermine your opposing commitment.
Yes.
Just don't let someone else have to suffer for that.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Now, I just, when I had the opportunity of attending your open house recently,
Yes, we're happy to have you.
I was just really delighted when I stepped in because I do admit whenever I'm invited to another city to speak, one of the first things I do is to pick up the telephone and see whether or not I can contact a crisis pregnancy center or pregnancy help center. And then, if there is the time, I do try to visit. And when I have stepped into yours, I was so delighted because I think everything that you've done in the way you presented the homey atmosphere, the simplicity, the friendliness, the counselors who are just the people that would make you feel welcome, and no matter how frightened, you'd have reassurance.
Yes, we do.
Just meeting with them. And I said, we do not have to take second to any other center in the country.
Oh, thank you
Very
So
nice
I
to hear.
congratulate you both on a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you.
But as everyone knows, money does not grow on trees. And it takes an awful lot to provide for the needs of growing families, because essentially you have a collection of growing families.
19.
And this year, 2006, is a very, very important year in our whole helping service history, because the Respect Life Walk to aid mothers and children, sponsored by Massachusetts Citizens for Life, the Charitable Trust, which is an educational foundation which makes it possible for those who want to contribute more than they can raise in the walk and get a tax donation for it, will be the first Sunday in October, October 1st. And because it is the 20th anniversary walk, we want to make it the largest we have ever had. You know, when I have participated in the Jimmy Fund walk, the marathon walk, so I have walked the marathon route twice.
Wow.
I was on the adult tumotherapy staff at Children's Hospital Medical Center's Dr. Farber, Dana-Farber unit in the past. So I walked for my late mother, my late father, and Dr. Sidney Farber
Oh, that's
himself.
wonderful.
But for our walk, you see the Walk for Hunger, and you see the others, and you have thousands upon thousands. We never quite have that number visible because we've always said, well, if you can't get to Boston, you can walk where you are.
Yes.
Well, this year we've got to get people to make a special effort to get to Boston. And to get to Boston not just to make a witness, but to get to Boston with filled sponsor sheets. Because there are women and children who need that money for their basic needs. And
Yes.
you, I have to give you all of the praise that I can possibly summon, because Friends of the Unborn has been perhaps the beneficiary group that works hardest each year and turns out the largest number of walkers with sponsorships. And I want other groups to feel that challenge. Don't have them win all the time. We want you to get out
That's
there and
right.
try to compete with them and see if you can turn up
That's
as many
right.
walkers as they.
That's right. I challenge any organization, any group, any school, come and we'll have this little competition.
Yes.
And whoever can bring the most will win the prize.
Yes, indeed.
And the
Now,
prize
we won't
is the
say
babies.
what the prize is yet. You know, saving the babies is a big
That's
prize.
the big prize.
But who knows? By then, some artist might design a wonderful plaque,
Yes.
and we can present it at the walk and put your picture in MCFL News and maybe even some of the other daily papers. Who knows? The Herald and the Globe may come and
One
take
never
your
knows. They may.
picture. Patriot Ledger.
That's true. They just may. It's
Now, I think you have some school contact, don't you, Sean? Did you mention you had invited a school to participate?
Well, actually, my grandchildren have been joining my wife and I at the walk for many years.
Uh-huh.
Not always all of them every year,
Yes.
but off and on. And my older granddaughter attends a school that I think this year might be actually organizing a bus to bring a
Excellent.
large group of the kids from the school to the walk, all
Wonderful.
with sponsor sheets
Yes.
filled out and donations in
Yes, this
Yes.
is what we want.
Yes.
So schools out there, I don't care where you are, anywhere in the state, If you can find a local sponsor to get your bus on the road, we want young people to understand that we know that they are not working, they are not self-supporting, their parents are paying for their expenses and their schooling where charges are made. But you can give your own service, and starting now serving, and I can tell you that when you're trying to get walk sponsor sheets signed and pledges donated, people are much more responsive to a smiling younger face than they are to the faces that have seen a little bit of wear and tear.
We need the young ones to come and join us. That's
Yes,
true.
indeed.
Yeah.
And I would invite every school throughout this Commonwealth to try to make sure there are at least 10 students in your school
Yes.
that have sponsor sheets for the Respect Life Walk to aid mothers and children on Sunday, October 1st, starting at Boston Common and Charles Street. We get together at 1 p.m. There's music. The Sons of the Bullock Brothers, a wonderful, wonderful gospel group,
They are.
will be there, and they get the spirit going, and you can be there, and the walk steps off promptly at 2 p.m. So you need to be there.
If I may, Dr. Jefferson, I'd like to add some emphasis to that. Friends of the Unborn, as an example, takes absolutely no taxpayer funding. And we do that for a variety of reasons. But because we take no taxpayer funding, we rely entirely on things such as the donations that are given to the walk and the portion of it that comes our way.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a large list of private donors, individual people who contribute to us on a regular basis,
Yes.
a very large list. We're not beholden to any organization or any
Yes.
group individually.
Yes.
And there are a lot of other organizations in the same kind of a situation that rely on the
Yes,
funding that comes
indeed.
from a
In
walk
fact,
like
we have
this. You know?
over 40
Yes.
organizations, pregnancy help centers, educational counseling groups, other educational ministries, but purely to provide the services that people would not have if we did not have this kind of support service to
Exactly.
provide for
That's
them.
true.
And again, I remind people that no matter what their attitudes are on abortion, there must be some loving kindness in the heart that would want to help
Yes.
needy mothers and children, and to help give a little one the sense that even though you may not ever get to know people, there are people who love and care about them just because they are members of our human family.
True.
And all of us are made in the image and likeness of God, and therefore we're all one family, and we must somehow find a way to care for each other. Now, I know that there are some of the young women who have passed through and some of the babies who have passed through that you'd especially like our viewers to know about.
Well, we've had probably 1,700 women in the last 22 years.
My goodness.
Just come and stay with us, and we've also done perhaps thousands of pregnancy tests at no charge. And I just want to say something about the women. Some of the women have had abortions in the past, and they have all often said to me, "I wish you were there. I wish I knew you were here when I was aborting my first child."
Yes.
And so we're just so grateful that we have a place to bring the women. But this one woman in particular, I remember, she was, the Braintree police brought her because she was homeless, and she was sleeping in the middle of Braintree Square under a little staircase, and she covered herself with leaves to stay warm because she had been burned out of her apartment and had no place to go. And I remember when they brought her, she was so very grateful. And I said, what an honor and a privilege it is for those of us who are pro-life and take care of these young women, to have her come in and give her clothing and food and love, especially love, and to keep her warm and to keep her safe during the pregnancy.
Yes.
And these women don't forget. They don't forget, and they come back with their babies. In fact, this week we've had a couple come in already and show us their babies as they grow up. And so I like to see them years later, but they're very grateful for the time that all of these wonderful people, when they donate their money to this walk, that they're changing lives,
Yes.
just totally changing the lives of many women who
Well, I
deserve
am
better.
so happy to hear that. Now, what do you have in terms of other kinds of professional support? Doctors, for example, and nurses? Do you have volunteers among them?
Yes, we have Dr. Trudy Murphy, who is a pediatrician, and she teaches our parenting class.
Wonderful.
We love to have her. She was there today.
Yes.
And so we have her. We have a nutritionist teaching nutrition.
Excellent.
We have parenting, nutrition, life skills, computer skills, anything that we can do to help them through this time. And also we help them with their housing and find something for themselves. But the teachers that we have, most of them have at least one master's degree. We have them volunteer their time and their energies to us. And we have many people we can call also who are available to us because of the work we do. So we're very grateful for all of these volunteers, wonderful professional people who are very, also you, who are available to us whenever we need to talk about something specific.
Yes.
So
Well, now tell us again, tell our viewers how we get in touch with Friends of the Unborn.
All right. Well, if there is a woman out there who needs a place to stay, if you're pregnant and you're homeless, or even if you just want to talk, please call us at area code 617-786-7903, and we would be happy to talk with you. And if you need a place to stay, we also have a bed for you. And we offer the love of the Lord, and you'll be peaceful and joyful when you come. So please come and don't be afraid, and we'll have lots to talk about.
Well, I think I might have mentioned to you that ours is a call-in program, but I usually get so carried away in our conversation that I forget to tell people. Well, our number, in case you would like to call in, is 617-973-4848. But if you have a blocked line, you have to dial *82 before you dial the number. Otherwise, you can't get in. And since I have used up all the time, and you won't have a chance to call in today, I do promise ever so often we have what is known as open lines, when I come on without a guest, so you can ask all of the questions that I didn't let you ask at some other time. But I want you, Sean, just to give a brief message to men out there who may be facing the same situation you did when you wanted to do something of a little bit more direct benefit in helping mothers and children.
Well, I would have to say to anybody, men or women for that matter, who would like to get more directly involved in any element. It can be anything from raising funds to doing repairs at our home or another similar type of a home. The most rewarding time I spend in my life, and I have a lot of things I'm involved with, is the time I spend around Friends of the Unborn and with Marilyn and the wonderful staff and the volunteers and the residents. That's the highlight of my activities. And so there's a lot to be gained in terms of your peace and your sense of God and your sense of your place in this world. So
Yes.
I encourage you.
Wonderful. And one parting word from you, Madam Founding Director Marilyn Birnie.
All I can say is life is precious and life matters. And there's always a way. There's always a way because the Lord offers us life. So we need to honor that life in the creation of the Lord.
Well, I thank you both for joining us today. And for our viewers, this is Life Matters. And I am your host, Dr. Mildred Fay Jefferson. Our program is sponsored by the Margaret O'Hara West Roxbury chapter, West Roxbury Roslindale chapter of Massachusetts Citizens for Life. And I usually close by reminding you that the fight for the right to life is not the cause of a special few, but the cause of every man, woman, and child who not only cares about his own family, but the whole family of man. But But today I want you also to remember that on Sunday, October 1st, 2006, at the corner of Charles and Beacon Streets, at 1 p.m., we want you to join us with your sponsor sheets filled with people from whom you've already collected the pledges or who will pay them, because we want this to be the largest, most successful walk we have ever had. So if you want to get your sponsor sheets, you may call your nearest Mass Citizens for Life chapter, but you may call our state office, 617-242-4199, extension 2, or you may go online at masscitizensforlife.org. Join us. Help, because with the help you give now will save lives for the future. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next Thursday at 2:30 p.m. for Life Matters.